One other decision I've made is to go sober for the month before the race. This, I feel, gives the pleasingly misleading impression that I'm some kind of respectable athlete, rather than the complete chancer I am in actuality. That said, without the context of the race, telling people you've gone off the drink gives the impression that I've some kind of problem, which is less pleasing, though also arguably less misleading. It is remarkable how, within a couple of days without drinking, suddenly you see the world in another light. You go out to buy milk at night and shake your head to yourself at the stumbling, squealing girls and lumbering, bellowing guys drinking their little lives away. If only they knew, if only they knew. Of course, somehow forgetting that's exactly what you were doing literally days earlier, and exactly what you'll be doing again within about 20 minutes of crossing the finishing line. Like a Conservative government, running can be a bit tough on the joints, so I do a bit of swimming as well to break up the training. There's something about swimming I really like, existing in a completely new medium for 30 minutes or an hour. It forces your body to question everything it previously held dear about gravity and how to move. It can be quite an otherworldly experience. One of the nicest moments of a swim is the first length after the first break you take. Your body is full of oxygen, so you glide through the water effortlessly, technique working perfectly. You only have to take 1 or 2 breaths in the entire length, and you wonder what's so difficult about this whole swimming thing. You feel like you've achieved mastery of the aquatic world, scoffing at the middle-aged flounderers in the slow lane beside you. Of course, at some point during the very next length, you'll be back to normal, flailing breathlessly through the water, barely able to stay afloat, and wondering where it all went wrong.
Bloody hell, that song is driving me around the bend.
What's up with Carl these days?
I don't know. He just sits around listening to this stuff all day long.
Strange.
I know. I have a bad feeling he counts that as training.
I must say, I don't really understand this whole running thing.
In what way?
Well, I don't do any exercise at all, and I never put on any weight.
Well, that's because we are intangible logarithmic entities, to whom the concepts of mass and weight mean nothing, isn't it?
Yes.
Running takes a lot of bravery, I think, putting your body on the line day after day. It's a tough world out there. After eventually regaining confidence in the aftermath of the I run like a faggot incident, learning how to like myself again, it's happened again this week. I was out running around school closing time the other day, and as I ran by a group of schoolgirls no more than about 11 or 12 years old, one of them hunched over and started pretending to jog in an exaggerated, deranged and haggard style I immediately recognised as my own. Children can be so cruel. How would she like it if I followed her home and mocked her as she did her homework? Not at all, was the answer to that question. Not at all. So I went for a run the other day. I'm pretty much sick of running at this point, finding yourself plodding sweatily and wheezingly along crumbling pavements and pothole-strewn roads, swerving sharply to avoid pedestrians gawping at your beetroot red face and pasty white legs dripping with dirty puddle water. You feel like a breathless waddling idiot, shown up by cyclists as they gently cruise past. You desperately want to stop, yet feel compelled to go on for fear of the embarrassment of a very public surrender. You turn up the volume of your music, but there's no escaping the disapproving civilian eyes, wondering to themselves why someone so awkward looking could even consider running in public. Your face gets redder and redder, and the judging eyes pierce further and further. The other day, as an old woman probably over 70 years old passed me by, I saw her smile and say, "Well done, keep it up." Initially, I presumed this was addressed to the small dog trotting beside her, but then I realised she was actually talking to me. I swerved deliberately and kicked over her trolley. That wasn't very nice. Well, technically, running is meant to be good for you. I'm not quite so sure. I'm not exactly over the hill yet, but the training has been taking a fierce toll on various parts of my body, from blisters on 50% of the area of the soles of my feet, to dodgy knees, to a persistent niggly groin injury. Yes, I said groin injury, titter ye not. I also have occasional hip problems. I can never decide which art house film to go to, or what's my favourite brand of hummus. Though that's to stray off the point somewhat. But talking to my fellow runners over the last few months, conversations just turn into a stream of injury complaints. It's not good. There's only a week to go now until the race, and I've actually been having physiotherapy for said groin injury over the last couple of weeks. It's a bit embarrassing though. The physio was a fairly gruff guy from Northern Ireland, and the first time I met him, conversation could be described as stilted at best. After a few minutes, I was lying on the bench and he was testing the injury, and at one point he parted my legs in a particular way, and I completely lost control of myself and screamed "fuck" in pain at the top of my voice. Now I know how the ladies feel. No, hold on, ignore that. It was pretty uncomfortable though. We'd only just met, and I don't think our relationship got any better after that. At the end of the session, he congratulated me for having the tightest muscles of the week, to which I inquired if being patronised was going to cost extra. He replied yes. I think I lost that particular battle. Sorry, just doing some stretches there. Right, so this is it. It's only 48 hours before the big day, and I'm starting to get properly nervous now. I'm mainly worried about last-minute injuries at this point. All these months of training, the running, the swimming, the hours of listening to Chariots of Fire by Vangelis on repeat. It could all come to nothing if I pick up an injury now. I have descended into something approaching mild paranoia though. I'm starting to feel phantom pains all over my body, and every minor domestic situation has suddenly acquired the potential for catastrophe. I lost my footing while having a shower yesterday, and 6 months of training flashed before my eyes, before I managed to regain my balance. My race could have been over there and then. It's such a fine line between tragedy and anecdote. Anyway, I should probably sign off now. I'm leaving for Connemara early in the morning, and I'm off to literally wrap myself in some cotton wool, though I'm not entirely certain that'll help. Hello, it's the weekend of the legendary Connemara, and I'm delighted to inform you I can offer an exclusive look behind the scenes with one of this weekend's foremost half-marathon runners. Hi Carl. Hi Carl. Nice to speak to you. So how are you feeling? I'm not too bad, thanks. I'm pretty much ready to go now at this point. So you're looking forward to tomorrow? Yeah, of course. This is the big one. This is the one that everyone wants to compete in. What is it that's so special about the Connemara? You know, when you're a boy, these are the events that you dream of taking part in. You watch it on the telly and you think, one day I want that to be me. I want to be part of that. Has the Connemara ever been televised? You know what I mean. So when did you realise you wanted to run? I suppose when I was about 11 years old, I organised a mini Olympics on our road. Just a small thing really. It wasn't officially accredited or anything. Probably 10 or 15 kids, I think. The final event was a marathon. Well, while I called it a marathon, it wasn't regulation length. It was just up the road a bit and then back, and finishing with a lap of my back garden. Anyway, I won the event convincingly in the end. I don't say this to boast. Most of the opponents were only about 6 or 7 at the time. But you can only beat what's put in front of you, right? Of course. And I did, comprehensively. But yeah, the moment I crossed the finishing line, with my mum cheering me on and my dad screaming obscenities at the other children, that's when I knew. Knew what exactly? Well, that one day, at some point in my mid-20s, I'd run one half-marathon in a fairly mediocre time. The audacity of hope. Exactly. There has been some speculation in the press this week that Sunday might be your swan song. My what? Your last race. Look, I've said the same thing all year. I'm taking the season one fun run at a time. This week is no different. That's perfectly fair. Now, the Connemara is a notoriously difficult course. Do you feel up to the challenge? It's a real test, all right. It's got more hills than the weekend schedule on MTV. Do you mean the show The Hills? Yeah, more hills than the weekend schedule on MTV. Are you sure that joke works? Fine, cut it out then, I'm only trying to help.